Okay, today I'm going to talk about how the email sausage is made. My goal is to provide a level of understanding that will make you more comfortable with the way mail works, so you can feel safe adding additional email accounts and switching from one email provider to another.
Dale,
Yeah,
your audio is a little low.
is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll sit closer. I'll talk about things like POP and IMAP, servers, clients, apps, and accounts. I know that sounds too technical, but bear with me. I'll make it as basic and easy as possible. I'll include a tip or two, then we'll focus on what it means to have multiple email accounts and how to use them. From there, we'll look at what it takes to switch email apps, and we'll wrap up with a quick review of common formatting problems, then end this section with a handy shortcut before we move on to contacts in part B of the two-part presentation. So mail consists of a server, an account, and a client. There are two main ways that mail communicates between the server and your client, POP and IMAP. So let's look at these in more detail. The basic elements look like this. Your email resides on the server in a giant database, and you use your client credentials to gain access. And you use an app, i.e. client, on your Mac, iPhone, or iPad. So let's start with POP Mail. POP stands for Post Office Protocol, the original dial-up system for email. It was designed for you to dial into your mail provider, excuse me, download your mail, then log off and read your mail offline. Server disk space was precious, so you were expected to store your mail on your local PC. Here's what happens when a modem user checks for mail on her iPad using an old-fashioned POP account. Her email app finds an email, it downloads it, and the server then removes it, and the user logs off. It's okay so far. But then later she checks her mail on her phone or her computer, and there's no mail there, including the mail that she had already downloaded on her iPad, because it's only on the iPad. And that's not what we want nowadays. So POP doesn't really work well with multiple devices like a computer, an iPad, and a telephone. POP has been enhanced, and it's really just a lot of duct tape and baling wire. It just wasn't designed for the modern internet. And it can be complicated to set up. There's server names, encryption choices, data files. It's not good. So let's move on to look at IMAP. IMAP is the modern email protocol. IMAP stands for Internet Message Access Protocol. I'm gonna get a drink of water here.
Dale, while you're drinking your water, can we ask, you're still really low.
Really?
Yeah, you're too far away, or the audio, we can't hear you that well.
Wonder if I can change my input volume.
I can hear you fine.
I can hear you fine.
Okay,
I can hear
everyone,
you fine as well.
thank you. Appreciate it.
I'd say it's adequate. It's okay, but thanks for bringing the point up, Sheeta.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So
Better.
let's see where we're
Yeah.
at.
Okay.
So IMAP was designed to be for the always-on internet with mail primarily stored on the server. IMAP works well with multiple mail clients such as the Mac, the iPhone, the iPad, PC, and Android, and includes the ability to store on the server and locally. And IMAP is our best option today. So we will focus on IMAP for the rest of this presentation. Here's the schematic of IMAP. Note that the email essentially stays on the server. Copies of the email are synced each time you check your mail. Now you can see all your mail on all your devices, and it looks the same everywhere. That's all we're going to say about POP and IMAP. If you have a choice, always pick IMAP. If you aren't offered a choice, then it's already chosen IMAP for you. So let's move on to the user interface. And before we do we have any questions?
I don't see any.
Good.
If you have questions, put them in the chat.
So user interface. The user interface is the part you see and work with. It's the client in the client server model. And it can be a mail application like Apple's Mail or the Gmail mail app, or it can be a web browser interface. To recap and put the client into perspective, the server is like the US Post Office. They handle delivery of the mail. They don't care about the content of the mail. The account includes your ID, your password, and your personal mail data in the main database. The client is the software that you use. Your client talks to the server over the internet and displays the mail content on your machine. The client is what's responsible for the appearance of your mail. It controls which fonts are used, how text is shown, and how photos are shown, etc. So the client is just the software application that you use to read your mail. Some examples are Apple's Mail, Microsoft Outlook, Google Mail, Polymail, Spark, Kiwi for Gmail, and Postbox, and all the web browser-based email interfaces. Your mail account is your key to accessing the central database. It's really a subscription that is accessed using your email address and the password. Notice how they're standardized across all mail providers. So the point here is that the mail clients are just applications and are not the same thing as a mail account. An iCloud mail account doesn't mean you have to use the Apple Mail app. And having a Gmail account doesn't mean you need to download and use the Gmail app either. They're independent. And this is a good thing. This means that we can use a single mail application with multiple email addresses, and we can migrate to a different app later without needing to change our email address. So let's increase the complexity one step and look at using multiple email accounts with a single email app. Let's say, for example, I have an iCloud mail account with Apple, and I have two Gmail accounts with Google and an old AOL account. All of them can be used at the same time in the Apple Mail app. And quick tip, I recommend using one email account for your family and friends, and also have a different email account for registering at hotels, stores, Amazon, etc. I call these burner accounts. And alternately, you can use the new Apple feature Hide My Mail, and we'll talk a little bit more about Hide My Mail later. So here's what multiple email accounts look like in the Mail app. First, Apple calls mail accounts mailboxes. Of course they do. So under mailboxes, we have the master inbox. Selecting the master inbox will show the mail from all accounts at the same time. So saying, oh, I never checked that account isn't an excuse, really. If you want to look at a single account at a time, just select that account. I've selected my personal Gmail account here. It's that simple. Did someone say, but what about sending mail? How do I know what account my mail is being sent from? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Mail app uses the selected account as the sending address, but you can change this on the fly. Simply click on your From address and select the account you want to use. You can do this at any time before you hit the Send button. So our goal is to have our email available anywhere and everywhere. We can pick and choose which accounts are available on which devices. So in this example, I would like to use my work cell phone and computer to access just my work email. I'd use my iPad to access my Gmail and AOL personal accounts. but my Mac can access all of my accounts. That way I can check my work email in the evening, but not have it interrupting me if I'm watching TV and just looking at my iPad. You can add and remove accounts on your devices at any time. Some restrictions may apply to work accounts. There are so many email apps. So how do I choose the best one? Well, it's like ice cream. We all have our favorite flavor. I use Apple's Mail app. 9to5Mac maintains a list of the best email apps they publish every year. And I've included the link, it's in the chat, if you want to check out their best email apps of 2020. Or you can do a DuckDuckGo search for best email app of 2020. So now you've decided if you want to use that new email app that you read about in 9to5Mac. It's actually fairly easy. First, you download the new client from the App Store. Second, you add your accounts to that app. And this is typically done under the Mail menu. Follow the prompts for that app. Then wait while the mail populates. That's it. After you're happy with the new app, you may delete the old app. No, you do not have to delete the old mail client. It's fine if you have multiple mail clients on your device. But with a word of caution, mail is stored locally, i.e. you've manually archived it yourself, in your original client may remain in the original client app, depending on the original client. Deleting the original client may also delete that mail permanently. And this only applies if you've archived your mail locally, as a reminder. And each device can use a different mail app. You may like the Spark email app on your phone, the regular mail app on your iPad, and a Microsoft Outlook app on your Mac. And you can do this if you want, but it's risky business if you do. For me, consistency is your smart choice. I use the Apple Mail app on all my devices. And finally, web clients. It's important to know that using your web browser is a viable and reasonable way to access your email instead of using a dedicated application. Typically, each email brand will have their own web client. But if you ask for help with your mail, please tell the person that you use the web browser to access your mail. Remember, the client controls what your mail looks like, so this information is critical to figuring out your issues. Web clients are best used when accessing mail on a public computer like a library computer or at your friend's house. Although a web client may be used in place of a dedicated app, I do avoid them. I prefer the apps. Any questions before we move on to mail formatting?
Yes, you have a question from Joe Gamicia. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Did a good job on that name.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have multiple devices and I have multiple email accounts and everything seems fine. But when I go to delete emails, I notice I have to delete them on multiple devices. And I don't know if it's all the time, actually, and I should know that. But is this a setting that you have to change when you go to delete mail, that it syncs?
If you've set all of your devices up properly, you should not have to delete them in multiple locations. IMAP will take care of that for you. So either you've set a preference in one of your devices that it doesn't delete from the server, which is a choice you can have on some clients.
So I'll check my preferences then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Bob McKenzie, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, yeah, this is great, Dale. Very, very clear. I've been lately getting an error message that doesn't stop me from sending and receiving from all my accounts, but it just is an annoyance and I'd like to get rid of it. So I use Apple Mail like you do for all my accounts. I have a Gmail, an iCloud, and a Microsoft Exchange Outlook work account. And then I keep getting this message, and it doesn't matter if it's on my Mac or my iPad or my phone. It says, cannot verify server identity, cannot be verified. And then it gives a random email address like launch, .ca or whatever. So I cancel the pop-up and I can send and receive no problem, but just an annoyance that keeps coming up. Where can I look to see where this cannot verify server identity comes up? I looked in the settings and I can't seem to find any problem.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've done the Apple support pages and I haven't found anything yet.
Yeah, I really don't know. When you get into the work-based Microsoft world, adding it, they tend to add some security features so that they can control if you keep their work emails or not after you leave.
Yeah.
And that can really complicate matters.
And actually that's not a bad idea. Maybe what I could do to troubleshoot this is I'll temporarily cancel my Microsoft Outlook account and then just use the other two on Mac Mail and see if that message goes away.
Yeah.
And at least that'll narrow it down to that's likely the odd one out.
Yeah, I would give that a try.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. We have a couple of responses to Bob's question in the chat. Take a look at that. Dale, all yours.
Thank you. So moving on to formatting, there are 3 mail formats that have evolved over the years. From the most complex to the simplest, we have HTML, then rich text format, and plain text. HTML is the same hypertext markup language used for websites, and it supports multiple text sizes, different text colors, different fonts, embedded graphics and links, and it's my preferred format. A note, Apple calls HTML rich text, and again, of course they do. Rich text is their standard terminology across their user interface guidelines. However, this isn't the same thing as rich text format. The generic rich text is really rich text format. It has similar features to HTML, but it has some real limitations with images like no moving graphics, no GIF files. So RTF is actually the legacy Word file format brought into the email environment by Microsoft. It's a so-so choice and typically only available in Microsoft Outlook. Plain text is just that, it's plain text. And there's no bling, there's no choice of fonts, no colors, no graphics, no nicely formatted links. But it's also the lowest common denominator and it works everywhere. So let's move on to some formatting problems. Email's rife with formatting issues. What you send is often not what someone else receives. It's disappointing and frustrating. In this example, you may have sent an HTML formatted email to someone with a different email client, and the clients don't play well together. You ask why? It's because it's complicated. There are so many email clients and each one interprets the rules differently. It's kind of like the speed limit. The sign may say 70 miles per hour, but is that the speed everyone drives? No. It's the same thing with formatting rules. This chart shows the inconsistency of just 7 of the formatting features for email. So how do the professionals deal with this? They keep a copy of the email on their server that will open in your web browser. They then embed a link in the email for view this email in your browser. And it's not bulletproof, but generally web browsers are much more consistent than email apps with following the rules. Here's another problem I deal with more than I'd like. People who use the return key as if they are on a typewriter. They put a carriage return at the end of every line. While this looks great on their screen, when I get it and my window isn't exactly the same size as theirs, the text looks all wonky. The fix is simple. Stop using the return key at the end of each line. Only use it between paragraphs. The Mac isn't a typewriter. So now let's talk about hide my email. Hide my email generates a unique random email address that automatically forwards to your personal inbox. Each address is unique to you. You can read and respond directly to emails sent to those addresses, and your personal email address is kept private. In this example, Jam Wirebeat sends their emails to blue126_cat@icloud.com. I receive them in my normal iCloud inbox. There are two key ways to use the hide my email. With sign in with Apple, which lets you create an account using a randomly generated email address directly within the supported third-party app or website, or with iCloud Plus, which lets you generate as many random email addresses as you need. Hide my email is new and the details are beyond the scope of this presentation, but the bottom line is that it's a great way to sign up online without giving out your actual email address. Newsletters and advertisements will come to your regular email inbox, and replies you send will use the same unique address. Here's a quick tip. When you're signing up for an account, look for the hide my email feature in the pop-up dialog box. It's very easy to use. Later, you can delete the address at any time. It's free to use and your devices keep track of all the hide my email addresses. Here's an example I use for the post office. Now I'd like to discuss read receipts. George Brooks reached out to me about read receipts. Unfortunately, Apple's email client doesn't have an option to enable read receipts. However, you can purchase an add-on utility, or you can enable read receipts using the terminal window, or you can swap mail clients to something like Outlook. Just in case people don't know, read receipts would be just like you see in iMessage messages. When the person opens the email, it would send you a notice back that the message has been read, which is a nice way to check up on people. But a lot of people don't appreciate that. So iReceiptMail is an add-on utility to enable read receipts. It's $14.99 for a single user, and the website is iReceiptMail.com, all one word. And note, your mail recipient will be asked for permission before their system sends the read receipt. So that may defeat the entire purpose of asking the request for receipt. You can also use the terminal window to enter a terminal command that enables read receipts. I've included the links to 2 articles that describe in detail how to format the commands to enable and disable receipts. Terminal commands are way beyond the scope of this presentation, so I'm not going to go into that detail. Finally, if you have the option of switching your mail client to one that supports read receipts like Microsoft Outlook for Mac, that'd be the easiest way to implement read receipts. Before we move on to custom email domain, do we have any more questions?
Yes, Donna, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Okay, we'll wait for Donna. Melissa, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, Dale. This is a good reminder. I'm sending email to like 60 people from my Apple account. And I think some people, it's going in, well, and this is sending them as a BCC.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes they end up in junk or spam folder on their end.
Sure.
Do you have any suggestions for how to, not land in a junk folder?
The best way is you have to ask each of them to add your email address into their contacts list. But that's not foolproof either. Generally, if they don't read them and they just hit delete when they see them, their mail client says, oh, they must not want to see those anymore, and it'll just automatically start putting them in the junk folder. I don't believe there's any foolproof way for you as a mass sender to stop people from doing that and stopping the clients from doing it.
All right, thank you.
This is Donna, I'm back.
Okay, go ahead, Donna.
Okay, thanks. Is there a way to unsubscribe from hundreds of email lists without doing them all in one fell swoop, having some control over it?
I'm not aware of a way to do that based on the way everybody signed up in the past. You'd have to go through each one and unsubscribe one by one. That is a nice feature of using Hide My Email, is that if you get tired of being on that subscription list, you can delete that Hide My Email address, and you'll no longer get those mailings anymore. So they're trying to address that kind of a concern, but you're not using Hide My Email for hundreds of lists in the past.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Donna. Heath, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. I've been using Mozilla Thunderbird as my email client for years, for a couple of decades probably. And you haven't mentioned it. I just wonder if there's any reason why.
No, the only reason I didn't mention it is because I used Microsoft Outlook all the time at work. And I try to use the Apple apps so that I can support the Apple products better.
Okay.
No slight of that intended. It's not.
Thanks.
Okay, Alan, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
About Find My Email. Does the person I'm sending an email to have to have an iCloud account to read the email? And second of all, when it comes to that person, does it come with an address that person will not recognize, and therefore maybe that person won't even open it?
The answer to the first question is no, they do not have to have an iCloud account. It just shows up as an email address to them. And the second question is, yes, you're right. It'll show up as that weirdo address, and they won't know who it is. They won't have a clue.
So there is a chance then that one of my friends or my family won't recognize it and just never read it.
That's true. If you choose to hide your email from your family, they will not know it's you unless you tell them, in which case there was no point in hiding your email. Right?
So I can choose who to hide my email from. I don't have to hide it to everybody. I only can hide it to, I don't have to hide it to my family and friends, only from people like foreigners.
That's correct. That's the beauty of Hide My Email. It's very selective on who receives it.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, Alan. All right. Last question. Marilyn, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, my question has to do with my email on my iPad. I have the Apple client, and sometimes the list of emails on the left side double up. In other words, one is on top of the other. And I can't separate them unless I shut down my iPad and open it up again. And I don't know why it's doing that.
That's just a software problem with your client. You might have to, if it does it in all the accounts, you might have to reinstall the Mail app. If it's just doing it in one email account, you can go in and delete that email account out of Mail and then re-add it.
Yeah, I didn't even check which account it was from because I have it all of them coming into one box. So I'll check that out. Thank you.
Sure thing.
All right, Dale, all yours.
Thank you. Okay, custom email domains. When you subscribe to iCloud Plus, you can personalize your iCloud mail address with a custom domain name and invite members of your family to use the same domain with their iCloud mail accounts. This is non-trivial task. I've provided links, but this is a one-on-one type topic. Here's an example of what it takes to set up a custom email domain. If your host is your site, you have to know where to find these settings. Apple will tell you exactly which ones you need to change, but it's non-trivial, and unless you really like playing deep down in the tools, I wouldn't even approach custom email domains at this time. Okay, so let's do something more positive. Here's your after dinner mint, if you will. I use my email for reminders to myself. I find that I reliably check my email, whereas I wasn't checking my reminders app. So I end up sending myself a fair number of emails. Therefore, I created a shortcut of 2 ampersands or @ that types in my email address for me. All I have to do is type the @ and up pops my email there. Then I hit return and it's entered. So that's real easy way to do it, and you can do that for yourself. Here's how you set it up. It's just a text replacement. It's available in your general settings. The phrase is what you want the final text to be, and the shortcut is what you actually type. And I'll mention I have a pet peeve. I think they should have put the shortcut first, as that's what you type first, and then the phrase is inserted in place of the shortcut. I always get it backwards when I set them up, then I have to reverse them to make them actually work. But it's real handy. So in summary for email, I recommend that you use a dedicated mail app rather than a web browser. I recommend standardizing on a single brand of mail app across all your devices.
No, you wait.
Always use IMAP if you have a choice. Let IMAP manage your emails on the server, and using multiple email addresses is a good idea. Hide my email or a burner email will minimize the amount of spam you get in your personal mailbox. Any questions on mail before we move on to contacts?
Way too many. Let me see which one might be the easiest to get out of.
Okay.
All right, Bob Jacobs, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have used, I use the Apple Mail client, and I try to redirect an email that I got to somebody else. And lately when I do that, and not just lately, it's probably been the last year when I do that, I get a message back that says, cannot send message using the server iCloud. I try to change the server because I've got several available, and it still does the same thing. It won't send them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's
the complexity of having multiple email accounts? I don't know what causes that. I get that sometimes, especially with Gmail, all of a sudden mail just cannot go out through the Gmail server. And I don't know what's happening there. I wish I had some insight. Maybe somebody else does. But
okay, thank you.
I experience the same thing sometimes when I'm in a environment where I have a very weak internet connection.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, George. Frank Sturgevich, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Actually, it's not a question. I want to share a problem with the group. Something that was driving me crazy for several years.
Frank, Frank,
Yes.
Frank, unless you
Yes.
have a question, we have to have a question.
Never
right now.
mind.
Thank you. Okay, Gerald, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. What is the best way to block an email from an unwanted source?
Oh, I didn't add blocking emails. I believe there's a setting to block an email.
Well, if you right click on the address name, you can see block contact, but how effective is that compared to any other method?
I don't have a definitive answer on that. I've not had that problem and I've not researched it. I have used that on occasion, and it is effective if the slime bag that's sending you stuff doesn't just switch to a different email address.
And you can also use Spam Sieve. That is an app that will really help with that.
What would that be again?
Spam Sieve. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
spam sieve will only help if it sees it as spam. If it's someone you just don't like, I would make a rule or check and see if your app or your server will allow blacklist and whitelist.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Dale, all yours.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move into contacts, focusing on how they are structured and how they're used with email apps. I'll cover the following areas that some people find contacts confusing. We'll look at where they're stored, that they're expressly set up to be used across email, telephone, and messages with multiple apps, including non-Apple apps having full access. Then we'll look at syncing our contacts across all our devices, and we'll finish with an example of using multiple contacts for those who have a need for this arrangement. It does bring additional complexity that you need to be aware of. Contacts seem to be very straightforward and easy, but the reality is that Apple put a great deal of thought and work into setting contacts up. The options available can make contacts very complex, however. Each mail client can have its own contacts, or they can all use the same ones. Sometimes you want all your contacts in one place, sometimes you don't. Contacts are stored in a database, and we use the Contacts app to access the database. As noted before, contacts are available to non-Apple email accounts. Since contact information is more than just a phone number or an email address, it makes sense to have everything available in a single location. You only need to enter the data once. All apps see the same contact information, and contacts can even be used to print Christmas card envelopes and other mailing lists. So what about if I have multiple email accounts? This is where contacts really shines, but it's also where it can get complicated. The beauty is that you can have a single contact list shared across many email accounts. That way, if you migrate from, say, the default Apple Mail app to the Gmail app, your contacts are still there, no re-entering required. Of course, this assumes that you are making good choices. So let's look at my setup as an example. I have 5 email accounts. I use my default iCloud account as my anchor account, the home to all my contacts. So this is the account I used when I signed up for my original Apple ID. My other accounts include my personal Gmail account, a NMUG and an SEE Gmail account, and a burner charter email account. Since my iCloud account is my central shared anchor point, it's linked to iCloud as shown. So notice the blue checkbox. This means that these contacts are replicated in iCloud. So yes, iCloud is required to get the full benefit of this approach. Next, I'll show you my personal Gmail account settings. I don't have the contacts selected here because I want the account to use the system default contacts instead of using their own. The side effect is that my accounts list isn't stored at Google. I know, they still know who I've emailed and who has emailed me, but they don't have access to everyone's home address or their phone numbers, birthdays, etc. At least not from me. So now we'll look at my NMUG and SAE Gmail accounts. Again, contacts is not selected, and these share my main contact list. I didn't have to re-enter any contact information when I created these accounts. They just worked right away with my existing contacts, which also means if I deleted one of them, I wouldn't lose any of my contacts. That keeps me in full ownership and control of all my contacts. And finally, my burner charter/Spectrum account, it too leverages my contacts. Notice that the account information looks different from the earlier ones. That's because Spectrum hasn't partnered with Apple like Google, Yahoo, and others have. The point here is that the contacts associated with this account are not checked. Okay, so now we have our Mac all set up. iCloud is used as my primary single contacts list across all 5 of my accounts. Now we'll look at my other devices. My iPad and my iPhone alongside my Mac are shown here. The Mac, which is run in Monterey, by the way. These features of contacts have been around for years. On the iPad, we go to Settings, scroll down to Passwords and Accounts, then ensure Contacts is green, meaning using the iCloud contacts list. The iPad is now identical to the Mac. I repeated the same steps on my iPhone. Contacts is green. The Mac screen is repeated here for reference, so you can see all 3 at once. It's that easy. So any questions before we move on to having multiple contact lists?
Yeah, give me a second. Someone had a question about their iPad not syncing. You know who you are. This list is very long.
It's me, Sophie. I just unmuted myself.
Thank you, Sophie. I appreciate the help. Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't get emails on my iPad. They're on my Mac and my phone.
Okay. Did you add your mail account to your iPad? You have to do that separately.
Okay. All right. I will look into it because the
Okay.
answer to it is I don't know, but the answer probably is I didn't, since I'm not getting them.
Yeah, and it's best if you put your phone next to your iPad and go through the settings and then check that all the accounts are looking the same in settings on both devices.
All right, thank
Go
you.
into settings and mail.
All right. Thank you, Sophie. Appreciate the help. Conrad, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Thanks, Dale. I have a couple of problems here. One is mail creates a duplicate draft message sometimes, and I don't realize this when I go back to work on the drafts again, and I'd like to know how to avoid duplicate drafts. And then the other thing is somehow the old trash mailbox is gone, and I've tried to figure out where to put it back on, and I can't do it. Your suggestion would be appreciated.
Okay. I have also had the problem of ghost duplicate draft messages. I don't know that there's a good resolution. Maybe somebody else does, but I've either ended up sending people the same email twice because I saw the other one later and thought I didn't send it, or I just delete it. I can't find any reason why it's creating those duplicates. but it's a common issue.
All right, thank you, Conrad.
Oh, the second question is the
Oh,
old
go ahead.
trash mailbox. Okay, can you tell me why all trash doesn't show up on my mailboxes?
I don't know if that's a setting. I don't use that feature, so I'd have to do some research. If you want to email me after this, I'll look into it for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Jim Cutler, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, on one of your previous slides looking at contacts, you had a checkbox or some other indicator on the bottom for work and said something about multiple cards.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. Where is that?
I'm going to go into having multiple contacts and multiple cards here next.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and Lawrence Jenkins, you say you have a question. What is your question?
Yes, I have multiple contacts and I'd like to combine them into the Apple contacts. Is there a setting that say get rid of duplicates when you import or after you import? Thank you.
Generally there are, and they'll usually either ask you if you want to merge the two or which one you want to save. It can get complicated, and since I learned years ago to stay away from having multiple contact lists, I haven't had to do it recently. So I don't know how Apple is handling it in the latest release. So other than saying it should work, I don't have any advice. Sorry about that.
All right, all yours, Dale.
Thank you. Okay, so again, I only use one contact list, but if I wanted a second account to have its own set of contacts, I just check the contacts box in the internet accounts. Now, Apple Contacts will include a separate set of contact cards for each account. They will reside in the same database, but for all practical purposes, they're really independent lists. So here's why you may want to do this. Say you're a sales rep and you have a friend named Ron, who's also one of your customers. So in this example, we want to have one contact card for Ronald, the customer, and a separate card for Ron, the friend. That way, Ronald's work contacts don't include his personal information. And then you are free to share Ronald's contact card with your work associates. Conversely, you could create a second contact card for Ron, your friend, in your personal contact list. And this card would only show his personal information, like his home phone number, his home address, and perhaps his birthday. So you're with me so far. One guy, two relationships, client and a friend. So therefore, two contact cards. This creates a convenient way to be able to share Ronald's contact information with your work peers without sharing his personal information. And then when you move to a new company, Ronald's work contacts will be deleted, but Ron's personal information will stay in your contacts list. So that makes sense, right? But this creates new issues. Which one is the default contact list? And when you create a new contact, which account is it associated with? So you must tell Mac which account is your default account. And on your Mac, you open the Contacts app, choose Contacts and Preferences, then click General. And then you have to click on the default account pop-up menu and choose an account. So you can see it's getting complicated. Now we have new contacts. Now all new contacts will automatically be created in your selected default account. I think you can see how this is starting to get confusing, and that's why we're here today. Some of you may have gotten into this situation by accident. So now we got two contacts cards for Ron and for Ronald, who are really the same person. So, oh boy, here we go. Well, I was gonna show you how you can link the two cards together because there was a feature in Apple that lets you do that. But with the latest releases from, I don't know if it started in Monterey or the last release back, they got rid of that feature. But just in case it comes back, or if you have an older version of the OS, they had a feature called Link Cards. And then you can tell contacts that Ron and Ronald are really the same person, and you want to see all of Ron's information on a single contact card. It was really handy, and it maintained the pseudo firewall between your work and your friends by maintaining the separate contact cards. So in some ways, you had the best of both worlds. And here's how you would actually use it to link the cards in the Contacts app on your Mac. You'd select the card you want to link. In this example, we searched for Melissa and chose card and said linked select cards from the menu bar. When you delete one of those email accounts, the link is automatically removed and only the data from the deleted account is removed. Again, sadly, the unlinking doesn't always translate to your other devices, so you may need to unlink them manually. As noted, it can get complicated. While I'm telling you about this link feature, again, it's not available anymore. And if you used it extensively in the past, you could end up with some linked cards that ended up staying on your other devices inadvertently. So in summary, Apple has a system-wide contacts list, so contacts work across all your mail clients. I strongly recommend that you use a single contact list with iCloud and sync all your devices through iCloud. And it will get messy if you use multiple contact lists. Thanks for the opportunity to share this information with you. And if you have any more questions, I think we got 15 minutes before our time is up.
Okay. Jim Cutler, can you unmute yourself and ask the question you just put in the chat?
Well, I've always recommended only having a single list, even when people have different accounts, especially in family situations. I have never quite gotten the courage to believe that family sharing is ready for prime time. I assume it is now. Do you recommend using family sharing to establish shared lists between people?
I'm in the same boat you are. It's going to get real complicated technically with family sharing. I have not chosen to go that route, just from once bitten, twice shy.
The only other comment that goes with that, with multiple lists, is make sure that you have your clients or the people you help use Command 1 to hide the list of calendars after you've made sure they're looking at the right one.
Oh,
so
okay.
If they're both sharing his calendar, his partner uses that as the default and only displayed calendar. So that's the only, but if they don't mess it with it, it works fine.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you. Frank Sturgevich, you're on. Can you unmute yourself and make your comment?
Oh, the comment?
There was something you wanted to share earlier. We now have time.
I was having a problem with my iPhone that I could not send an email to myself and my Yahoo email address, or that I could CC myself.
I remember that.
And I did not have a problem sending it to my Gmail address, and I did not have the same problem using my other devices, iPad or iMac. This was driving me crazy for several years, and I finally got to the bottom of it. The problem was that I had set my iPhone the default that all outgoing emails I BCC myself at Yahoo. So after I unchecked that, there was no problem. Again, I just wanted to share this with the group.
That's very interesting. That was their problem. I find, if you don't mind, I find that a lot of people who want to BCC themselves in their emails, you don't have to, because the Apple client saves a copy of your sent email. So if you're BCCing yourself, you are in essence sending that message to yourself twice.
That was the problem. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your patience. We wanted to get to the questions first, but thank you very much for sharing that.
Sure.
Gerald, do you have a question?
I
or
just
a
want
comment?
to,
Go ahead.
yes, I just want to, this is a very important point. I just want to verify that you unchecked the contacts in your other mail clients except for the Apple Mail. So you keep all the contacts together.
Whichever account you want to be your primary and your only contacts list, that's the one that's checked. It doesn't have to be the mail email, but one of them. Just have one checked and the rest are unchecked.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Gerald. Greg, you have a comment, question?
Yes, I have a question. Can you have two cards for yourself, one with everything in it and the other one that you can use to airdrop to people?
Yeah, you can have an unlimited number of cards for yourself, but only one of them is known as your card.
Yeah,
Right,
your
you-
me
you
card.
make that
your-
one me card. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
yes, your me card, yes. Okay, Frank Salvatini, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, how come I get emails into archive? They just go there. Now, you know, some of them are ads, some of them are responses, but the archive box that's default on my Apple Mail gets these archive things that I didn't ask for, or didn't send for. It goes in there. And I thought archiving was just for taking a bunch of emails that you had that you want to save and put on your drive so that whatever happens, you know, should Apple get an EMP sometime, you still have them. So what's archive about?
Check your settings, because when you add new accounts, it tends to default not showing you the delete button, but instead wants you to archive everything. So it puts the archive button in the exact same place it would have put the trash can. And you may very well be telling that account from one of your devices, be it your phone or your iPad or your Mac. You think you're telling it to delete, but you're actually telling it to archive.
Okay, but they're both in the account, trash and archive.
I had that problem while adding Gmail accounts, that Gmail wants you to never delete, so they can always search through everything. So I would look in if you have Gmail, to look in there and double check those settings that it says delete, not archive.
In the Gmail account, right?
Yeah.
Go to the website.
No, on your device, in the Gmail account set up in Mail on your device.
Okay, so
and each device is separate, so you have to look in the settings on all your devices.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. Hank Humphrey, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, sorry.
All right.
I'm one of those unfortunate people that have 2 or 3 contact lists that that I stumbled into over the last couple of years, and it's quite confusing. Can I print out each one and then figure out which contacts I don't have in iCloud, and then move them in or something like that? I don't want, you know, you can't merge all the list. I don't think. I think you have to select two contact cards to merge. But anyway, thank you.
In my history, my past, it always works better to print out the contact list, even if it's a pain, and then go through with an ink pen or a marker and scratch out the ones that are okay. And then you do the minimum amount of damage to your contact list. I've found it's just too easy to make a mistake and duplicate hundreds of contacts.
Yes.
Try to massively do it.
Yeah, I have, like 1,100 on one and 700 on another. And
yeah, that's no fun to fix.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. All right, Billy McKee, what's going on with your issue? Can you unmute yourself and share that with us?
Thank you for your answer, Cheetah. I've had several devices where the contact lists on them have been different, and I think of a different. I've ended up with multiple contact lists, and I've also got groups within those. And Cheetah has just told me how to get rid of them out of the groups. But when I've got a list of contacts groups, once I empty them, I can't delete them. Is there any way around that on the left-hand side? If you bring up contacts.
Yeah.
Do you have contacts listed in the iCloud and then separate contacts listed on your computer? That's what it sounds like is going on.
Now, what I've got is if you bring up contacts on a laptop, what I have with I've got all contacts, and then underneath all contacts, I've got various groups, which have some of it is duplicated, unfortunately, from merging two together. But what I've managed to do is get people out of those groups, but I've now got those listings of groups under all contacts, and I want to get rid of them. And I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, the group name is there, but when you select the group, there's no cards in the group.
That's it. I've emptied them. Cheetah's told me how to do that just 5 minutes ago. So
Yeah.
Can I get rid of that card? There's an option that comes up and says export group card, but does that?
If you select it, you should just be able to delete it either from the menu or press the delete key.
Yeah, if you select it, go up to edit and delete group. Which is right.
Yeah, well, this is
copy paste.
No, something's not. I don't know. No, I don't seem to be able to see where to delete it, but it may be because it's been a migration across, you may not be able to do it.
I had one of those and I just deleted it now to make sure it works. And
hold on, I'll just find it.
Okay.
If you go up to edit, if you go up to edit, and then there's cut, copy, paste, and underneath it is delete group has suddenly appeared from nowhere.
There you go.
So I think if you empty the group, then you can probably delete it. Whereas up until 5 minutes ago, they were full of names. So that looks like the answer is empty it and then delete it and then rebuild it, because I've got hundreds like everybody else, and some of them are time expired and some of them are dead and gone.
Okay, great. Thank you, Billy. I'm glad that was a success
Anyway,
for you.
Sorted. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hold on. Karen McAuliffe, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
What tips do you have for the email subject line to prevent an email from going to a receiver's junk mail?
Oh. You can't do that.
No.
There's nothing you can do. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next question. Frank Sturdovich, you had a question now?
Yes, each time I send an email to my son and his Yahoo email address for my Yahoo email address, it goes to his junk mail. He added me to his contact list, and we tried everything. So I finally gave up. I'm now sending emails to his Gmail account. Any suggestions, ideas?
I don't use Yahoo. It's obviously a Yahoo setting problem. They're over aggressively choosing who goes into junk. He should be able to select your email, your account in his junk folder, and tell Yahoo that this is not a junk email. If he hasn't tried that, ask him to look in his junk folder, select your email, and maybe right click on it. See if it lets you tell Yahoo it's not junk.
When you say tell Yahoo, how do you, I mean, we did that, you know, right click on the email, particular email saying it's not junk, move to inbox. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, there should be a menu item that says that it's not junk.
We tried that.
Oh,
and the next email went to junk.
Can you drag it to the inbox?
We tried that as well. But then the next email goes automatically to the junk.
Right. It doesn't learn from that. It just saves that one email.
Correct. Yes.
All right, well.
I have an answer to that.
Go ahead, Michael.
Sorry. Both Gmail and Yahoo, if you go to the website and go to the mail on yahoo.com for mail, have a setting where you can actually set the email that you want and put a rule in there to have it go to your inbox.
Excellent.
Try
Thank
that.
you so
Thank
much,
you.
Michael. All right, thank you. All right, everyone, I suggest that you please copy the chat. If you don't, we will send that chat out to you. There's some really good information in here. And I want to thank you for all of your questions. I apologize that we couldn't get to all of them, but we just couldn't. And thank you. Dale, would you like anything else to say?
Once again, thanks for the opportunity to present. I enjoy creating these presentations and it's fun sharing.